Hey guys, I'm Joe. You've probably seen a lot of my posts on the Low Carb Challenge forum, and I happen to be the husband of Vicky, but as well as that I'm also a qualified chiropractor, massage therapist, personal trainer, amongst a few other things. So a little bit of a jack of all trades when it comes to health and fitness. And that's really my passion, and that's what I'm here to speak to you about today. What I want to do is just take it right back to the basics and start off with a few fundamental principles that I really go by, which I use as my, I suppose, philosophical approach when it comes to addressing health and fitness with your physical body, and how that works with your sort of body-brain connection as well. So to really strip it back down to the basics, the first thing I'm always going to look at, and the first thing of utmost importance, is posture. Your posture dictates your movement, or your structure determines your function. So if you've got a really good foundation, a good posture, you're probably going to have really good movement, which means that you're going to move a lot more freely with less aches and pains and less potential for injuries. If you just take this little example of being round-shouldered, and you can try this for yourself while you're watching this video. If you're really hunched over through the mid-back and rounded through the shoulders, and then just try and do a straight arm raise and see how high you can get without feeling any restriction to movement, without feeling any aches or pains. I know for me, it's around that point where I start feeling a bit of a pinch in the shoulder and a little bit of restriction to movement. Then you reverse that and give yourself a good posture, and we all know more or less what good posture is: shoulders back, chest out, chin tuck, standing up nice and tall. And now do that same arm lift. You should feel that you've got a much better range of movements, less restrictions, less aches and pains. So if you've done that for yourself, you should be able to physically feel that demonstration. That's just taking one joint into account, that glenohumeral joint, the relationship between your upper arm and your shoulder blade. But if you think about all the joints throughout the body, which you've got a few hundred of them, if those stack up really nicely and you've got great posture throughout, you're going to have a lot better movement throughout your body. So there's a lot of different resources that you can look at when it comes to how to correct your posture and how to hold your posture better, and posture cues, posture correction exercises. For me, I like to use an exercise method to help with posture. Probably the number one exercise method that I've come across over my 25 years of experience in the fitness industry would be Pilates, and that's why we include that as an exercise that we incorporate into our studio here at Eat, Play, Thrive. Some other really good options is just basic weight training. It gives you a good posture awareness, good overall strength throughout your body to be able to hold a better posture longer throughout your day-to-day activities. Things like swimming, really good as well, because it's a symmetrical, low impact activity, and you've got resistance which is offered to you by the water, which also helps with your posture. And then just having that general posture awareness, thinking about your day-to-day activities and how you can improve your posture whilst doing those activities. When it comes to occupational health, the term with your posture is your best position is your next position. So you don't want to be stuck in one position for too long a period of time. You want to be able to go from a sitting position to a standing position to moving around, and basically break that out into half an hour lots. So posture is definitely one up on my list. And another thing about posture which people often don't consider is the emotional, behavioral, attitude attributes that can be attributed to your posture as well. So posture is not only about your structure and your function, the physical elements, but it's also about the emotional, behavioral elements as well. So you'll never see someone who's on top of the world and bubbly and happy and enthusiastic and is a go-getter with the slouched posture with their head down, shoulders forwards, hunched, you'll always see that their posture reflects their mood. So you can use your posture to help your mood, to help your behavior, to assist with your attitude as well. And this is especially important in social settings. It's especially important in business settings as well, because whether we like it or not, we do tend to judge a book by its cover. You generally tend to make your first impression about someone within the first 2 to 5 seconds of meeting them. So often a word isn't even spoken between two people. You're just observing each other's posture, maybe a handshake, and that determines what your first impression is of that person. So if you're going in for a job interview, say, you want to go in there with a posture that reflects how serious you are about getting that job. If you're in a social setting and you don't want to go and stand in the corner of the room and be by yourself, you want to get in there and get amongst the people and really have a good time. Again, your posture is going to reflect the mood that you want, and it's going to reflect what you want back from people. So just think about that when it comes to posture. There's been a lot of psychology in this area that confirms that posture is not only physical, it also ties into your emotional and behavioral as well. So number 2 on my list is breathing. Obviously we've got to breathe to keep on living, but what I'm talking about here is more intentional breathing or accessory breathing. So we've got a primary muscle for breathing, which is our diaphragm muscle, which sits just below the rib cage, and that's a combination of smooth muscle and skeletal muscle. And what that means is that we have a small amount of conscious control over that diaphragm muscle, but largely it works out of our control, so it's subconscious. Whether we like it or not, that diaphragm muscle is going to work to help with our breathing. Every time you take a breath in, that diaphragm muscle just below the rib cage, that relaxes. It allows the lungs to fill up with air. The lungs, because they're filling up with air, they get bigger, and that pushes down on the abdominal content. So that's why you often see with your relaxed breathing that your stomach's going in and out. When you take a breath out, that diaphragm muscle contracts. It pushes the air up and out of the lungs, and that's why you often see your tummy goes in when you take a breath out. So that's the primary muscle for breathing. Then you've got these secondary muscles for breathing, and those are skeletal muscles. So what that means is that you're in conscious control of using those muscles. Those muscles are around your ribs, around the base of your neck or top of your shoulders. They're around your shoulder blades. So there's a whole lot of these accessory muscles of breathing that really get the air into your lungs and out of your lungs. You're going to be using these muscles when you laugh hysterically, when you're straining down, when you're doing vigorous exercise, or when you're just really conscious about taking big breaths in and out. What's been demonstrated when you're using those accessory muscles of breathing is that just by taking 3 or 4 big breaths in and out and really focusing on filling up your lungs and collapsing your lungs, your blood pressure goes down, your heart rate goes down, and your muscle tonicity, so the natural tension in your muscles decreases as well. So it gets you into a state of relaxation by practicing deep controlled breathing. However, what I'd like to add with breathing as well, and this intentional form of breathing, is that you've really got to go out of your way to use these muscles. Because of our sedentary lifestyles, we're just not getting enough opportunity to get these accessory muscles working, and if you don't use it, you lose it. So take opportunity to get them working by engaging in some vigorous activity. If you're walking and you see a hill, really power up that hill. If you're going for a leisurely bike ride, take a minute or so to increase the cadence, to increase the tempo. Even if you're in the kitchen doing some cooking or doing something, some cleaning, just take a few moments to throw in a few deep squats here and there. Just get that heart rate going and get those accessory muscles, those secondary muscles of breathing working. You just got to continually let your brain know that your body still has those muscles and you know how to use them. So that's breathing. Next one on the list is muscular elasticity. So I like to use one of these bands just to demonstrate this. So muscles have an elastic potential. So what I mean by that is when you contract and relax a muscle, it has the potential to lengthen and shorten and go back to its original length. It's contractile tissue, and very similar to an elastic band, muscular tissue is striated. It goes in lines. Now, what can happen with overuse or with injury is that the muscle gets scar tissue buildup or calcium deposits in the muscle, and essentially what that's doing is it's going from this healthy length of muscle to a position where you might get what in lay terms is a knot in the muscle. So you're getting a reduced overall length of your muscle, and then that decreases its elastic potential, because this is a block point here. So I've got a bit of an elastic potential here on this side of the knot. I've got an elastic potential on this side of the knot, but overall I've got this reduced elastic potential. And as you know, if you feel in any muscle in your body, there's going to be a few knots or tender spots. So there might not only be one area of calcium buildup or damage in the muscle or knot in the muscle, there might be several. So going from a muscle with lots of elastic potential and lots of range of movement, you've now decreased the range of movement. And what you need to remember is that every muscle attaches to a bone, and two bones make up a joint. So if there's muscular adhesions or knots in the length of muscle, that's going to affect how the bones communicate with each other, and it's going to affect how those joints move. So in order to undo this, there's several things you can do. You know, there is some research to show that you can't actually diminish or completely resolve knots in muscles, but what you can do is you can take all those calcium deposits that are on the muscle, which just get laid down in a mishmash sort of way, and you can realign those fibers to go along the same length of that striated muscle. So essentially you're making that scar tissue or those calcium deposits more functional, so they're going in the same line as the muscle. So essentially we're sort of trying to undo these knots and give the muscle back its original, or as close to its original elastic potential as possible. Now you can do this on yourself. A couple of tools that I like to use. One is a foam roller, and you can use this as a self-massage tool. If you want to see some videos on how you can do that, you can look up on our social media channels, Instagram, YouTube, Vimeo, or you can just jump onto Google and type in foam roller muscle release exercises. You'll find millions of videos there. So there's lots of good work that you can do to basically give yourself a head-to-toe massage using the foam roller. The only thing is this doesn't get in very deep. It's just a bit of a general massage. So if you find some real tight or tender spots, that's where you can use something like a tennis ball, or if a tennis ball is not hard enough, if it sort of feels too soft in the muscle, you can always take it one step up and go into a lacrosse ball, which is a very hard rubber compound. And you're basically just putting this into the tight spot in the muscle, and then you'll need a hard surface that you're pressing against. So if you're doing it standing, you're pressing against a wall. You can do it sitting on a chair or lying down. Any place you feel a tight muscle, you just stick the ball there, and then you just roll around gently around that area until you feel that tight spot almost melt away, or some of that tenderness reduce a little bit. Other ways you can help, or other ways to help reduce that or increase your muscular elasticity is nutritional. Vicky's spoken a lot about, you know, obviously nutritional benefits when it comes to overall health, but especially with muscular health, your muscles need to stay very well hydrated. Vicky bangs on about the necessity of electrolytes, especially salt and magnesium. Magnesium is like muscle food. Your muscles love it. So a topical magnesium, you want to put it on your skin. It doesn't have to go in the area where you feel that muscle tightness. Just general is fine because it gets absorbed systemically. That's a great one to use to help to decrease that muscle tightness and assist with your muscle elasticity. Other ways to improve your muscular health is to have regular massages. and then just engage in mobility type exercises, so full range exercises where you're not working too hard against resistance, but you still need a certain level of resistance just to allow that muscle to have its elastic potential. Again, you can do lots of searches relating to mobility exercises, mobility drills. You can find lots of those, again, working from head to toe. Next down the list, so we've looked at posture, we've looked at breathing, we've looked at muscular elasticity. These are really the three basic fundamentals to get you to the point where you're now ready to move and you're ready to exercise or to train and to be really active. Once you've covered those three bases, you sort of got the green lights to go ahead. If you haven't covered those three bases, then to be frank, there is potential for niggles, aches and pains, and even injury. So you really want to strip it back down to those basics. And how long do you need to work on that for? Well, you know, I'd say at least 4 to 6 weeks to work on your posture, your breathing, your muscular elasticity, and then you can get into more vigorous types of activities and exercise. When it comes to movement, training, exercise, what I always strongly encourage is movement variability. So what I mean by that is your body has the potential to move in lots of different ways. So you want to work it in lots of different ways. Again, the issue with modern day living is that we tend to get stuck in a rut of moving our body in the same way day in and day out. You know, if you think of your activities from the start of your day to the end of your day, and then even your sleep position, you're probably stuck in very similar positions, and you're doing very similar movements day in and day out. So when it comes to exercising or being active with your body, think of different positions that you can use your body. So swimming is a great one because, you know, most of the time we're vertical, whereas swimming, it's a horizontal activity. So you're just putting different gravitational forces on your muscles, on your joints, and working your body in different ways that it's not used to. Doing exercises where you're lying down, doing exercises where you're sitting, doing exercises where you're kneeling. So you're getting a full range of different forces acting on your body, which will help to balance out the negative effects from that daily grind, from just doing all those same movements and holding same postures day in and day out. Another thing to consider is that we're a multi-dimensional organism. We move in lots of different ways. We don't only move forwards, back, up and down. If you look at a lot of gym programs, exercise programs, you'll find that a lot of the exercises involve forward, back movement, up and down movement. There's very limited exercise programs that give you lateral movements, a side-to-side movement, and rotation movement. And probably, you know, 95% of injuries that we get as humans occur as a lateral movement and occur as a rotational movement. So take a rolled ankle, for example. That's a lateral movement injury. You know, you roll your ankle to the side, inversion sprain. It's a lateral movement. Take another one like a disc injury to the lower back. That's often because of rotation that you end up with that injury. It's very seldom that we're going to get injured in that plane of movement where we're going forward, back, up and down. So you really want to work on those lateral movements, and you want to work on those rotational movements. First, small controlled way, and then once you get stronger in those ranges, then you can make those movements bigger and with more resistance and with more intensity. So consider that when you're looking at an exercise program for yourself, or when you're thinking of engaging in different sports, how you can incorporate that side-to-side movement, lateral movements, and how you can incorporate rotation in there as well. I've come up with this spectrum of physical conditioning a while ago, probably five years ago or so, just to explain the difference between being mildly active or hardly active versus being extremely active, or not having much physical conditioning to having really fantastic physical conditioning. And so I've used four terms to describe that. The first one is movement, the second one's activity, the third one is exercise, and then the last one is training, going from one end of the spectrum to the other. Now, movement is essential for survival. If you don't move for a period of time, roughly 10, 12 days, you're dead still, you don't move a muscle, literally all you're doing is breathing and you're getting fed and hydrated through a tube, you will die after 10 to 12 days. Your body requires that constant movement in order for the systems and processes to occur properly and to ensure your survival. So movement is necessary for survival. It's a basic premise. If you think of your gut, for example, I know as a previous runner, I would always need to make sure that the routes that I run on would have a few toilets dotted along the way, because that movement of running really gets the gut moving, and chances are I might need to have a toilet stop along the way. So if you're a distance walker or runner, you can probably relate to that. So that's just an extreme example of how movement gets the gut going. The next one along the spectrum is activity, and activity is what I describe movement with purpose. So it's all the stuff you need to do to get you from the start of your day to the end of your day. You know, you wake up and you attend to your personal hygiene, you prepare yourself something to eat, you need to commute to get to work or to school or wherever it is. You know, you need to get back home, you need to do housework. That's all activity. It's stuff that you pack in your day to enable you to live the life that you do. So that's movement with purpose. The next one along that spectrum of physical conditioning is exercise. So and the way I like to explain exercise is it's an activity that you enjoy doing, that you prescribe a set amount or set dosage to. So you give it a set amount of time and a set amount of frequency that you perform this activity each and every week, because you really enjoy doing it. So just take a basic one, for example, which is walking. So as an activity, you might be walking to the bus station or just walking to your car, and you know, you go, oh, I really like this walking thing, I think I should do it more regularly. So you prescribe a dosage to that. You go, okay, I'm going to walk every day for 45 minutes at quite a good brisk pace, and you know, it's going to help me not only physically, but I feel like when I walk it clears my head, or maybe I'm walking with a couple of mates and it's a social outlet as well. So exercise is an activity that you enjoy, that you prescribe some dosage to. Then the last one on the spectrum, and this is really the gold standard of physical conditioning, that's training. So again, let's take walking for example. Training is exercise with a goal. So you really enjoy your walking, but just doing it day in and day out, it's giving you some enjoyment and obviously some benefit, but now you go, I really want to take this walking to the next level. What can I do? So, I mean, I know, for example, we've got a couple of clients here who've really taken walking on board this year, and they're just looking at all these events and hikes that they can do all over Australia, and they've been to Tasmania, and now they're looking at doing the Oxfam Trail Walker, which is a 100-kilometre walking event. So in order to be fit enough and strong enough to endure these events, you need to take your walking maybe to the next level, and you need to go, okay, well, if I'm going to do this event, you know, I really need to devote a good 8 to 12 week program of walking in the hills. You know, I might go to the local national park where there's lots of big hills and off-road terrain, and vary my walking to ensure that when I get to this event, I'm going to be able to enjoy it and complete it and do the performance that I was hoping for. So that's your gold standard of physical conditioning, is training. So what I'd like you to consider is moving across that spectrum from movement, which is essential to survival, to activity, which is just the basic stuff that you need to do each and every day to get you from the start of your day to the end of the day, to exercise, and then finally that gold standard of training. Finally, what I'd like to speak about is no excuses and no days off, no rest days. I hear it all the time. I don't have enough time, I'm too tired, I'm too sick, I'm too fat, I'm too thin. You know, there's so many excuses you can come up with, but basically in the end of the day, you just got to make the choice. There's always time to fit in the stuff that you really enjoy doing and the stuff that you really want to do. You know, you've just got to make this sort of thing a habit, and find an exercise, or find a movement form, or find a sport that you can really relate to. Often you might need to go back to and think about what you were doing in your early years. You know, when you were at school, did you enjoy playing tennis? Did you enjoy playing hockey? Did you do gymnastics? You know, and then seek out a similar sport or exercise or activity that you can do that allows you to do something similar. So you look at a exercise like Zumba. You know, that allows or gives adults a good opportunity to relive their dancing days. You know, if you were a dancer in your youth and you used to love it, what can you really do now these days, you know, in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, which brings you back to those days where you really enjoyed your dancing? And, you know, an exercise method like Zumba might do it for you, or there might be other ones that you can find there. So you've got to have something that you enjoy doing, so that you negate those excuses, and it doesn't become a chore. It just becomes something that you're really looking forward to. And then, like I said, no days off, no rest days. As far as I'm concerned, your rest day is the day you expire. Why do we need to have a rest day? You know, a lot of people say to me, oh, I've trained hard the last 3 or 4 days, so I think I deserve to have 2 rest days, just put my feet up and do nothing. No, there's no time for that. Life's too busy. We need to keep moving. We need to pack stuff in. You know, we need to, I know it's a cliche, but live each day like it's your last. You know, make every day count. Tomorrow might not be there. Every day that you wake up is a fantastic day, and that's how you should really start your day. And then finally, a lot of people say, well, I think it's too late. You know, I'm in my 50s now, I'm in my 60s. You know, it's just too late for me to get going. Well, what I say is, when's the best time to plant a tree? And the answer for that is, the best time to plant a tree was probably 20 years ago, because now you would have this, you know, this fantastic luscious tree which provides shelter, shade, it's fruiting, it's probably germinating, and there's other trees popping up. So it's having this compound effect. However, the second best time to plant a tree is today. So, you know, there's no starting on Monday, there's no starting tomorrow, there's no starting next week, there's no starting when I do this, or life's going to be better or more convenient when the kids start school, or when the kids finish school. Today is the best day to start. And the effects are compounding. So what you're doing today doesn't only help you for today and tomorrow, but what you do today and tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day and the next day, without any days off, that's going to have a compounding effect that's going to help you for the rest of your life. You know, when you get to your 70s, when you get to your 80s, you're going to look back and you're going to go, that's what it was for. Just like when you put money in a fixed savings account and you collect it when you're ready to splurge, you know, and it's grown a huge amount. So exercise intensely, consistently, frequently. Don't forget the basics: posture, breathing, and muscular health, and get out there and have some fun.